Hi, welcome to Feeling Through Live. My name is Doug Rowland from the Feeling Through Experience. I'm joined today with Richard, Pierre, and Tanisha from Destiny Home. Destiny Home is a deafblind residence in Long Island, and today we will be talking about how life there has changed since COVID has been happening. Before we go into that, just a quick intro. For those of you who caught our last episode, Feeling Through Live is a weekly broadcast. Right now it's on Fridays. We might investigate adding other days in the future, but we're doing it on Fridays at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern time, where we're discussing a whole host of topics that pertain to and are alongside the deafblind community and beyond. We're very focused right now on topics that pertain specifically to what's happening with COVID, since that is obviously a very timely and important issue to discuss. So without further ado, Richard is the supervisor of Destiny Home. And Richard, if you could just, for those watching, if you could give just an overview of what Destiny Home is for those who aren't familiar.
Well, Destiny is a group home for the deaf and blind. I believe it's the only group home on Long Island that houses both dual diagnosis of deaf and blind. Some of our clients do have vision. Well, two of them do. It's five residents here. 3 girls, 2 boys. The 2 boys are the ones with low vision. They live here and they go about basically every experience that they go through just like anybody else would. They go to work. They don't have school or anything like that, but they have a training building where they perform activities and learn new skills if need be. They also have access to different technologies there. Aid of staff who have walking dogs and stuff like that, but our residents don't necessarily use dogs or anything like that, just saying things that are offered to them there. But as far as the home, they engage in, like I said, almost everything that anybody else would engage in. Just a regular day, and our staff here who are so amazing, they help them with their daily activities. If they want to learn how to order things online, go shopping online, go to the bank, whatever it may be, we're here for them. But it's usually at their discretion, and it's usually what they request. We don't necessarily try to impose anything on them as far as options. We give them options, but it's always their decision, and we just really like try to provide everything that they need, that they ask for.
So this a question for Tanisha. Tanisha, how long have you lived at Destiny Home?
Well, first I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Tanisha Verdejo. I've been living here at Destiny Home for about 10 years. I have staff that work with me to go out to the community. I do go to work. I'm employed by Helen Keller National Center. I actually do all their supply all their vending machines, as well as I do some portioning of soap for the laundry services, as well as I teach sign language at HKSB. I'm a sign language instructor, and I do that with the help of my staff members. I go out, I do a lot of different types of activities every day. We go out to eat at restaurants. I go shopping. We're pretty busy. Just trying to think of what else I do. Sometimes, I really enjoy going to Starbucks. Surfing the web, as well as now with new technology, I'm actually able to order food, get my groceries online and have it delivered. I still commute back and forth to my family's home. So sometimes I go back to visit family just for vacation. But unfortunately, when I go to vacation with family, I'm kind of bored. I don't really have much to do. A lot of times I just spend my time reading. I love arts and crafts. I make different types of pictures. And I just wish
Well, I always go out. I go out to hang out with friends, socialize, just to go out with my interpreter or an SSP, to check out things, explore new things that I'm curious about. I do travel. I always go on vacation. Every summer I go on vacation.
And in order to do that, a lot of times the staff members here will actually drop me off and then pick me up.
Great. Well, thank you for that really great introduction. Let's just hop right into it then. You've given us Tanisha, you've given us a good overview of, what life is traditionally like there. How have things been different over the last number of weeks since coronavirus has been happening? What changes have happened to your life at Destiny Home over that time?
Really? I've been really busy with work. I have to stay at home now, and I just have to stay here. I just have to just constantly be here. And we're just getting some clarification. So I have staff as well as interpreters help me. My interpreters help me they interpret everything that's going on around me, what's happening on the news. I actually love watching the news and know what's going on in current events. So the staff here are able to interpret the news for me because I can't hear it myself.
So another question for you, Tanisha,
But, I'm still going out for my walks. I still enjoy working out, so I just kind of get outside and walk around. I actually really enjoy going out for walks.
So another question. During this time, there's been a lot of messaging around social distancing and not being able to touch each other. You are someone who communicates through tactile in ASL. So I'm wondering how that has affected your life, or how you feel about a time where touch is being said to be not allowed, but you personally rely on it in order to navigate the world and communicate with other people. What's that been like for you?
Right. For me, it's hard because I can't really social distance because I am dependent on tactile sign language. And to have access, I have to touch that staff member. So I really can't go out and do things on my own or avoid other people. I know that's what's happening right now, and they're telling me that you're not allowed to do that. But, because they say that people can't get too close, so now I have to do things a little bit more on my own.
So question for Richard, from the staff's standpoint, obviously, again, we're being told across the country to stay at home, to wait this out for, further information as this develops. But obviously at a place like Destiny Home, staying at home is not necessarily an option, or not the same decision to be made by staff who work there and support the residents that live there. Could you talk a little bit about what this time has been like for your staff?
Sure. Well, for my staff, I know that it's a big change. The day's a lot slower because of the fact that they're not going out to work and engaging in all the activities they normally do. As you said, just like it's difficult for Tanisha because she's using tactile sign. Same thing for our staff as far as keeping clean and not necessarily and trying to keep social distance is literally impossible in the house, especially with the girls. As I said, they have no vision compared to the guys downstairs. And staff for precautionary measures, we have a great nurse here who goes through all the guidelines of OPWDD weekly because I believe there's updates like every day. And she's always updating and putting out a new in-service, such as one of the precautions that we do. One of the many is that when staff enter the building, we have a vestibule that they take their temperature from the moment that they enter the house before they can interact with anyone. Then after they take the temperature, then they ask 5 questions, such as, do you have shortness of breath? Are you coughing? Do you have diarrhea or anything like that? And granted, these are not questions that we would normally ask somebody, but just to be on the safe side, because we have clients here that they're a little older and we want to make sure that we keep them as safe as possible. After the questions and your temperature is taken, is documented, but while it's being documented by the AMAP, the staff member then goes and washes their hands prior to interacting with anything. They don't touch any doorknobs or anything like that until they wash their hands. And then after they wash their hands, we give them a new mask every day so that they can wear it because they're good for about 12 hours. And they wear the mask throughout the entire day. And usually the residents don't necessarily always have their masks on. They don't necessarily like it, but for precautions, we wear them. And that's one of the main things that's really changed as far as entering work. And that's something that staff has never had to do before, these steps before you can even start your work day. Then after that, as far as throughout the day, like I said, usually staff would go to work, but because there's no work, now we're engaging in, we're coming up with schedules to go. We finally opened up the track at our program, so we're going to be going for walks on the track there now, besides just in the neighborhood. We recently bought some patio furniture so that the residents can enjoy hanging out outside on a nice day. What's the quote? As far as with paperwork, it's not much paperwork to do with for the staff, because usually we document what they did at work and how they did at work for the day. But unfortunately, that's not something that we're doing. So now we're keeping more daily logs of what they did at home, and we're just trying to brainstorm on ideas together as to what they might want to do while in the household this time, because we thought that the COVID-19 thing would be over by May, or then first we thought April, then May, now we're here in June, so we're just trying to hunker down and be as safe as possible, honestly. As far as staff coming in and out, staff have been very mindful to let us know if they've come in contact with anyone who may have been positive. Then we have had them stay on quarantine for about 14 days. If they don't show any symptoms, then they can return. We've had staff get tested, and we're just trying to be as safe as possible because their safety is the utmost important to us.
Absolutely. So we're going to take just a quick pause to do an interpreter switch.
Okay.
Again, for those who are joining us who aren't familiar with interpreter switching, it's customary for longer conversations like we're having to have interpreters switch off signing, which is what we're doing right now. So are we set on each end for our switch? Yeah?
Yep.
Great. So continuing that, thanks for breaking that down, Richard. It obviously sounds like your team is taking the necessary precautions to be safe as possible, knowing that, you can only do so much during this time. I'm wondering, has any of the staff expressed to you any sort of concern around coming in, given what's happening, or if you had any discussions around that?
Fortunately, in all honesty, all the staff here, even the staff that are like, we have like backup staff, all the staff are more than willing to come in. I guess they feel comfortable with the precautionary measures that the nurses set up. The staff, like, I haven't even had a call out really. All the vacations that staff had, they may have wanted to take them. They all canceled their vacations. They're all here for us. So I really like, they're the real heroes because they've been here every day, here doing what they have to do and taking care of the guys. They no one expressed like, hey, how are we gonna, like, I don't feel comfortable because I'm scared of getting it or anything like that. Like, all the staff here have been more than willing to come in. I actually have texts from other staff saying, hey, if you need anybody, please let me know, and everything like that. So it's been a blessing, honestly. It's been a real blessing how much the staff here care for the guys and how much they're willing to come in and work. Some of them are willing to come in for extra shifts if need be. Fortunately, we haven't had the necessity for that, but that's one thing that I can actually say. It's actually kind of even better than it was before COVID started happening.
Well, that's a great case of something like a challenge like COVID happening that actually in this case is bringing people together and really bringing the best out of your staff, it sounds like, which is certainly really amazing to hear. And definitely, as you were just saying, also want to recognize what a tremendous job it is that it sounds like they're doing over there, and really commend them for continuing to do their work during a time where that's obviously a lot more challenging for a number of reasons. So that's really great to hear, that your staff has been so game to continue providing the services that they normally provide, and sounding like they're in many ways going above and beyond as well, given the circumstances.
Definitely.
That's really great to hear. So, from your standpoint, Richard, we were obviously talking about a lot of the procedural changes that have been implemented to create as safe an environment as possible. But are there any other, really discernible changes since COVID has been happening? Whether, yeah, please go ahead. No, that was the question.
Okay. Besides procedural changes, the main changes, I guess, are some moods. We have a fairly young male resident in the home, and he's very savvy with technology, and he likes to set up new clocks and stuff like that. So he has an iPad. He keeps up with the news, and someone like him has become a little bit more, I guess, aware of everything going on. And he's become a little bit more reserved because he's afraid of like exposure. Even when we first started wearing masks in the house, he was like, "Are you sick? Are you sick?" He was very concerned about us being sick, and kind of shied away from staff a little bit, and even the other residents. But as of recently, he's noticed that we're only wearing the mask for precautionary reasons. He's been out in the living room more. He's engaging with the other male resident downstairs. He actually came up here a few minutes ago before we started this video, and he came up to say hi to the girls and the female staff up here. He's I would say he went through a change as far as when it first started, and now he's going back to normal, to how he normally is now. The other male resident. He's very adamant about going to work. Extremely adamant about, like, he's very stuck on a routine. And I would say for the month of March, he had a lot of trouble dealing with the fact that he wasn't following his weekend routine of going to the movies and IHOP. Every day he would wake up and kind of, not a tantrum, but he would kind of be upset with staff that he wasn't going to work. So what we did, something that I would say is different, is that we had to find ways to educate him on the fact that of how Corona is affecting the world. We'd have to show him pictures of, like, China. At the time when we were first, like back in March, we were showing him pictures of what was going on in China and stuff, because it was more prevalent in China at the time. We were showing him pictures of, like, body bags and stuff like that. And it's a little bit morbid, but it was the only way for it to hit home, for him to understand, hey, you can't go to work. And I understand that you're upset, but this is for your safety, because if we take you out and if you have underlying health conditions and everything like that, you're more at risk than anyone else. And we're just trying to avoid that. We want to keep you safe. It took about 3 weeks of showing him the pictures, telling him what was going on in the news, for him to finally get it and understand, like, hey, this is the situation that we're in. But he's become, now that he knows he can order IHOP and Dunkin' Donuts, he's fine now, because that's what he cares about. He had plenty of DVDs. We put on movies for him all the time. I actually know how to get movies online. I put movies for him all the time. So he's become a lot more accepting of it. May not be happy about it, but he's definitely in a more jovial spirit. He's engaging with the residents again. He's engaging with the staff, and his demeanor just become more amicable now.
So, Tanisha, another question for you. You were kind of getting at this earlier, but what has been the most challenging part of since coronavirus has taken hold? What has been the most challenging part of that for you personally?
And this is Tanisha, not being able to go out. That's been a challenge. Staying home all day is boring. Staying in the house is boring, and all of us, we want to go out, but we can't. I stay home, we play cards, I read. Those are kind of the activities I do. I knit as well. I read on my iPad with Braille. That's how I access it. And that's what I do all day with my Braille display. I'll chat with some of the staff here. And we do funny kind of conversation and activities while we're here in the house. We also get food delivered that we've ordered as well. And I place orders over the internet, and then the food is delivered here.
So Tanisha, another question for you. I've read during this time that people from various disability communities, but including the deaf-blind community, are sometimes a little bit even more concerned from a health standpoint when something like this is happening, because there's a concern that, you know, if something were to happen health-wise, that the communication with a doctor or a hospital might be more challenging, and there are certain fears around that lack of clear communication leading to more complications. Is that something that is a concern of yours personally, or anything that you've had to deal with personally in your life?
And this is Tanisha, no. When I normally go to the hospital, you know, I go with staff, I'll have an appointment, and there'll be an interpreter available. So that's typically for all of my appointments, I'll have an interpreter at the doctor's office. So again, I will go with my staff person, an interpreter will meet there, and we'll use tactile communication at the appointment. We're just getting some clarification here. This is Tanisha. To communicate, I use tactile sign. And sometimes I can use print on palm, which is abbreviated POP. So print on palm is when someone writes information on your hand. They write out the letters so that I can get the information that way. But I really use tactile sign language mostly. So that writing with print on, I can't access print visually. I wouldn't be able to read a piece of paper. So if there was a piece of paper that I was given, you could maybe use some print on palm to give me some information, or tactile sign language so that I can access it.
Yes, Richard.
Yeah, I don't think she understood the question. Because we were asking her about after COVID, but Razor was saying to her that she was answering the wrong question. But as far as I can help with her answer, because she only gave you an overview of how appointments went prior to Corona.
Sure.
Just so that you guys know, as far as appointments, a lot of appointments have been canceled. As you know, doctors aren't necessarily seeing too many of their clients, their patients right now because of the COVID-19. Fortunately, our nurse is like amazing, and she's been keeping up with all the appointments. She speaks to the hospital that their primary care physicians are at, or whatever appointment that they did have. She does updates with them. She actually had one yesterday over the phone. And if there were any changes or anything like that, of course, those hospitals would probably have to meet up or open up so that they can see their patients. But we've been blessed that guys have kept great health in the time being. Some of them are losing weight because of the fact that they're home and not necessarily going out to eat. So there haven't been too many challenges as far as appointments, besides the fact that they're not necessarily going there in person.
I see. Another question for Tanisha. Tanisha, you said you've been at Destiny Home for quite a while now. Can you tell me about how life has changed being in Destiny Home as opposed to how life was before you were at Destiny Home?
And this is Tanisha. I've been here for 10 years. And the interpreter is just going to finish the question. And we're pausing for interpreting to catch up here. This is Tanisha. Staff have let me know that things out in the community are closed, that I need to stay home. And that is one way my life has changed because of COVID. I can't go to work. There's nothing to do there. There's no work to be done. And interpreting just needs to re-clarify Doug's question. This is Tanisha. Before I was a part of a program called FEGS. And I was a part of that program before moving into this group home. And there was a lot of hearing people part of that program. I was the only deaf-blind person. It was difficult to communicate. It was really difficult to communicate in that program.
So could you speak more about what has been different about now being in Destiny Home versus the previous residence that you were living at?
This is Tanisha. There was really no similarity between FEGS and Destiny Home. They are very different. FEGS, really, there's more hearing consumers there, a part of that program. I was the first actually deafblind person a part of that program. And again, that was quite some time ago. I really didn't like that program because it was such a challenge to communicate because everyone there was hearing. So there was just, communication was just constantly unclear and would constantly break down because there was only hearing people there that didn't sign.
I see. So it sounds like Destiny Home and the services they provide are a lot more geared toward helping you and having you live a more enjoyable life than your previous home. Is that correct?
And this is Tanisha. Yes, I really enjoy Destiny Home. It's much better. I have access to communication through tactile sign language. Again, as I said, FEGS was a challenge for me because of communication.
Tanisha, I'd like to talk a little bit more about your employment. You were telling us a little bit about it before, and I'd love if you could just go into a little bit more detail about, when you're able to work, what when COVID is not happening, what work do you do? Tell us a little bit more about that.
I work at the Helen Keller Services for the Blind, and I teach sign language. I teach sign language to their hearing staff and to their consumers. And I make sure the class is fun and enjoyable for everyone. The staff and the students learn sign that I teach them. And again, they're all hearing. I also go to the Helen Keller National Center, where I refill the vending machines with soda. I check the vending machines, I collect the money that's in them, I give the money to the accounting department. I also make sure the soap dispensers are filled. If they're not, I refill them. So I do a lot of stocking type work.
There are, I know something that's important to the Helen Keller National Center is employment for the deafblind community. And I know that there's a lot of people who may not be familiar with the deafblind community that would make assumptions around the community not being able to to be able to work or do jobs that you're describing. So I think it's really great that you're able to share your personal experience so that people who might not be familiar with the community can hear directly from you what it is you do for work and the many things that you like to do throughout your day. Tanisha, can you tell us a little bit more? You'd mentioned that your hobbies and other things that you like to do. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you like to spend your time on an average day?
This is Tanisha. I enjoy being busy. I enjoy working with my hands, knitting, reading, going on the internet, and different sorts of things like that. I also like to make collages and decorate and be crafty. I also like to make cards. where I'll draw things and then I'll send them to family and friends. So those are some of the things I really enjoy, giving people things for their birthday also, or when they retire or what have you. So I like making sure that things are decorated and giving nice things to people I know. I also love reading Harry Potter. I love it. I can't get enough. I love reading it on my Braille display. I connect my Braille display to my iPad, and that's how I read Harry Potter.
Well, you know I get made fun of all the time because I've actually never read a Harry Potter. And anytime anyone I meet hears that, they give me a hard time because they say I'm really missing out. So you're making me want to start reading it.
And Rich signed that Tanisha's smiling under her mask.
And thank you, Richard, for clarifying that. Obviously, you are both doing the right thing and wearing masks, but sometimes it's hard to read expressions when those.
Yeah, I can see it in her eyes. Like she had a big smile right now.
Yeah. And Richard, a question for you. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more about how long you've worked at Destiny Home and if you'd had any prior experience with the deafblind community before working there.
Well, honestly, I've only been working at the Destiny Home for 8 months. I started off as an assistant manager, and within like 2 months, I got promoted to the supervisor. The only experience that I've necessarily had with the deaf and blind have been my great grandmother. She was blind, but I was very young at the time. Maybe like the oldest I got to see her up until was maybe 5 or 6. So I wouldn't even say that's real experience. But I do have extensive experience working in the OPWDD field. I've worked with multiple different diagnoses. I worked at the Center of Developmental Disabilities, where it was a range of different disabilities. Then I started focusing on cerebral palsy for about 9 years. Then I started working with autism, and while working with autism, I ended up getting a RBT license as a behavior therapist. Doing ABA therapy, and I did that for about 4 years. And then during that time, while doing like independent contracting through that, I found out about Helen Keller National Center, and I applied here just because it was back in the field of OPWDD and not necessarily. I didn't really enjoy independent contracting. I prefer to work for a company, and I was blessed by Laura Rocchio. She gave me the opportunity for a management position, and I just did everything I had to do to prove to her that I was capable of handling it. I picked up the sign fairly quickly. I'm not fluent or anything like that, but I can definitely hold a conversation and understand when people are speaking to me. At times, I will have the staff assist me with staff who are, because I also have deaf staff, such as Reza right here. She's deaf, and communicating with her when she's like, they prefer me to use ASL instead of spelling. So because they want me to become more familiar with it. So I have another staff, Natalia, are you here? Natalia, she's one of our hearing staff that has been very good at assisting with interpreting for me. She teaches me a lot. Here she is. This is Natalia. This is one of our other staff.
Hello.
And this is Ray, the deaf staff who's interpreting for Tanisha right now. So the staff have really assisted me as far as becoming more familiar with sign, and it's been a great team so far. No one's ever been hesitant to assist anyone else as far as if you don't understand something. And I do have a staff member coming in shortly who she's the main staff who's like, do not spell. You better learn ASL all the time. So it's become a point to really learn the ASL and make sure that I can communicate with them on their terms. So that way they feel more. So they get the sense that I actually care about what I'm doing and actually care about their community.
And on that note, as someone who has been at the Destiny Home for 8 months now, obviously, you work very closely with everyone there. I know there's only 5 residents there, so I'm sure you have a lot of really personal contact with everyone that's there. What have you learned about the deafblind community, or what's your experience been like acquainting yourself with a new community over that time?
Wow, that's very how could I say, it's not challenging, but it was very new to me. The fact that I can't necessarily wear dark clothing. I usually have to wear light clothing so that I don't if they have low vision, that they can necessarily see what I'm signing to them against my clothing. Another thing is being sensitive to the fact that being that I'm someone who grew up around speaking and hearing people. At times when you're having a conversation, another staff might come in who's speaking staff, and they might sometimes just interrupt one of the staff who are signing to me, not knowing that we were having a conversation. And you have to be mindful of those things to avoid being rude or feeling like you're discriminating against them. Even as far as documentation, when writing stuff like how to contact the staff, management, it can't just be about calling, because not everyone can call me. Some staff need to video call or text, and it's just been very initially it was like it was so different to me, because I would need to, if I needed a staff to cover a shift, I'll try to call them. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, what am I doing? They can't pick up the phone and answer. So I would have to find different ways of figuring out how to communicate with them and which ways were more preferable to them. They've recently we did a new app for the Sorensen that's called Wavello. Now it allows video chatting with the interpreter there 24/7. So it's actually a good thing. So it's like you're making regular phone calls and there's always an interpreter there. And it's like we're probably going to be implementing that for staff and so that way, if there's ever a time that I need to communicate something to them via phone and text wouldn't be the best way, that's something new that we're probably going to be implementing. But as far as for me, I'm very, like, as I said, I've worked with so many different diagnoses as far as disabilities. I'm kind of very open to learning, and it's never a culture shock for me when dealing with new groups of people in different new communities, because everybody's different all over the world, and you just have to be mindful and try to respect their customs and stuff, and just be as respectful as possible for the most part.
Well said. Well, we have about a minute or so left here. Before we part ways, Tanisha, is there anything that you'd like to say before we wrap up our conversation today?
Yes, I always love being with my staff. I love all their help. I love chatting with them. I love that they give me information about what's going on out in the news and in the world. And they come to work to help me. They can communicate with me and help take care of me and, communicate and chat with everyone. So I really have to say that's a thank you to them.
And Richard, before we conclude this conversation, is there anything you'd like to say?
The main thing I would like to say is that although I'm the one on the video, in all honesty, I feel as though my staff should be the ones on the video. They are amazing. I can sign and interact with the residents just as much as they can, but in all honesty, like, without them, what I do wouldn't even matter. You know what I mean? Like, I think that everyone should be aware that the DSPs and all the life coaches that are out there right now during this COVID virus, they should really be praised just as much as nurses and doctors, because if they weren't coming into work, who would be there for these guys? And, that would be a horrible situation if they were left out by themselves, you know what I mean? So, like, because honestly, I can be gone for a month and this house would still run because these guys just know what they're doing. I have no words to express how much I appreciate them.
Well, thank you so much for stating that. And, again, thank you both for joining us today for this conversation. I'd like to extend my thank you to the rest of your staff as well for the amazing job that you've told me they're doing. And as you just put really beautifully, what they're doing is so important. And, you know, though it may be cliched to say it's very true, but, you know, those are the real heroes during this time, people that are out on the front line, so to speak, providing really necessary services. And quite frankly, you know, taking a risk to do so, but one that obviously has a great reward and is very necessary to a lot of people. Tanisha, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your experience. It was really nice to meet you. And I hope I get to speak with you both again soon.
Thanks for having me. This is Tanisha. It
Thank you
was
for
very
having me.
nice to meet you, Doug, and thank you.
Great. Well, that concludes our second episode of Feeling Through Live. Again, apologies for the technical difficulties. I will certainly be having another long correspondence with Zoom to figure out why that's happening. But we will continue to provide these conversations on a weekly basis. So continue to follow our page for new conversations. They'll be every Friday, and we might even be incorporating some other days as well. Thank you so much as well to our interpreters and our captioner for making this accessible. And we look forward to bringing you another episode next week. Have a great weekend. Bye.